Now we're ready. All right, we are live finally. So sorry, guys, for the delay. We're having some technical difficulties, but awesome. So glad to have everyone here. I think we have the privilege of having the youngest panelist ever in the Defiant Jam sessions. 13 years old, right, Gajesh?
Yep.
Amazing. So we will be talking about decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs. Huge movement, huge topic in DeFi and Web3. Just like a bit of history. It's a concept that goes back to, I think, maybe 2014 is when people first started writing about DAOs. At the time, they were also called DACs, I think, decentralized autonomous corporations. And then, they kind of picked up steam with notably the DAO in 2015, but we all know how that ended. And I think that kind of turned off people to DAOs for a long while. There wasn't much talk about DAOs at all during even the 2017 boom. It was all like ICOs, nothing about DAOs. Then bear market came 2018, 2019, not much movement on the DAO front until I think it was like Moloch DAO started reviving the whole movement, and then Meta Cartel, and just kind of proving that DAOs were actually useful, and really kind of instruments in organizing people and organizing capital. So yeah, with that brief introduction, I'd love for us to just go around. I'll say brief intros about you guys, but then if you can just tell us more about yourself. So we have Pratik, Gandhi, head of marketing at growth at Covalent, Lukas, Schor, product lead at Gnosis Safe, and Gajesh, Naik. Okay, sorry. Founder of Taksh. Okay, so can you all just explain more about your projects, and also just go a little bit into how you have experimented with or built, or just your general experience with DAOs. If Pratik, we can start with you.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Camila, for having me. I mean, this is pretty exciting, and DAOs are obviously very exciting too. So yeah, a little bit about myself. I've been working on the growth and marketing side of things in the crypto space around since 2016-17. Currently leading marketing and growth side of things at Covalent. I also look after governance and the DAO operations and the marketing within Alchemist DAO, which is Covalent's community and service DAO. And yeah, previously worked with multiple Web3 projects, and even before getting into crypto, I was running a marketing agency and worked with few hundred clients in different countries. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself. And essentially what we do at Covalent is we are basically the API layer, or the data layer of Web 3.0. And if you look at blockchains right now, they are the data is currently there's loads amount of data right now, and it is very expensive to kind of get that data out, and it requires skilled developers to get access to the data. And at the same time, the smart contracts essentially hold a lot of it's literally like a black box. So what we are essentially doing at Covalent is making sure that we get to the granularity of data, make that data accessible across different blockchains. So currently we've indexed 15 plus blockchains. So we literally have data across these blockchains, and 500 plus projects currently use us. And in terms of the use cases, in the past 6 months or so, we've seen a lot of DAO traction. We've seen a lot of DAOs actually like going and like experimenting. There's a lot of treasury diversification, a lot of different events that we have been tracking, and this is very exciting for us to kind of be a part of that at
Awesome.
Covalent. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself and Covalent.
So at Covalent, you have experience working with different DAOs, but not necessarily. But Covalent itself isn't a DAO. Is that right?
Yeah, good question. So our community essentially is like the heart of this, and then we started as a ambassador program, and we called it as like Alchemist Ambassador Program. And in the past 6 months, we've grown that program from 0 to 2,500 members, led by Jackie, who's the head of token marketing and the Alchemist program itself. And a couple of months back, we turned that ambassador program into a DAO. So essentially today, there are different guilds within the DAO that are operating, and and they're helping like achieve the vision and mission of Covalent, which is essentially to make data accessible and make get more people involved in this. So we want to like capture. This is what we say with the Alchemist DAO is we want to change 1 billion lives, and that's our goal with the Alchemist DAO, to kind of have more people in the DAO and onboard them and make sure that they know every little thing that's happening within the crypto space, and work with the Covalent API.
Very cool. Okay, Lukas, how about you?
Yeah, first of all, pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. So as mentioned, I'm leading product in the Gnosis Safe team. Gnosis Safe is kind of like one project within the bigger kind of Gnosis project, and that's focusing on building out the Safe, which is a smart contract-based account standard. And so kind of our mission is to bring kind of Web3 towards smart contract accounts, as this is, in our opinion, the only way how kind of we can find mass adoption, because the way that most people right now are managing digital assets via private keys, it's just not suitable for most use cases. And one of the like most obvious ones is companies managing funds together, or to further extent also DAOs, which just need a DAO cannot just control the private key and cannot manage assets this way. So kind of that's why smart contract accounts are this critical for enabling DAOs. And yeah, so the Safe, most probably know it as kind of a multi-sig product, meaning a way for multiple people to kind of sharedly manage assets. But kind of from this multi-sig kind of framework, more and more companies are then kind of extending that. And because the Safe is at its core like a programmable account, which doesn't really mind how it is controlled, you can then add more modules that kind of add other kind of ways how these assets are managed. And for example, one of them could be via token voting, where assets can be controlled. So my background, to make it short, is mostly on kind of like the DAO tooling side, the DAO infrastructure side. I'm also personally part of Gnosis DAO, which is kind of the DAO like stewarding the Gnosis ecosystem. But yeah, that's maybe short summary.
Very cool. Okay, so super interesting perspective. You do both DAO tooling, but Gnosis itself is controlled by a DAO. And then Gajesh, how about you?
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'm Gajesh Naik. I'm the founder of Gadget Finance and Taksh, and also part of FWB and Bankless DAO. So Gadget Finance is on the mission to build like a one-stop DeFi NFT platform, and we have recently launched our NFT farming platform, and like we are going to launch NFT staking in a couple of months. So about Taksh, Taksh has recently closed its seed round and pre-seed round, and like we are launching next month.
I'm just just interested in your like background, being so young and participating in DAOs. So you mentioned you're part of two DAOs, FWB and Bankless, and you're working on this NFT. project. So, are like, do you go to school too? Like, how did you get into the space?
Sure. So I joined. Before joining crypto, I was building Web2 dApps. Web2 webs. Sorry, I was building website. So I joined crypto last year in September, and there I got introduced to Bitcoin and blockchain on day one, and then I started like learning more about crypto, and like I discovered Solidity and yeah, from there like I did freelancing for about 3 months and like started my own project Gadget Finance, which was like previously known as Polygaj.
Very cool. Okay, so you're like self-taught in Solidity and just like started like building your own thing.
Yeah, I'm self-taught in Solidity, but the previous programming languages like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Python, like those were the things where I had went to some institutes and learned it. And yeah.
Very cool. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so to start, just to like lay the ground for what DAOs are, want to get your thoughts on how DAOs are different from traditional companies. Like, do you think, like, what are the main characteristics, and do you think DAOs are ready to replace closed corporations? And whoever wants to start.
I mean, in some ways they can replace existing structures, such as like kind of communities, like projects or corporations or something. But it's not necessarily that it needs to replace them. It can also very much extend them or like augment them. So I don't think that the goal should be that all corporation or companies should become DAOs. It can also be a tool to kind of coordinate multiple like traditional entities and have kind of like super company coordination or that. But yeah, maybe just as a thought.
What do you guys think?
I mean,
like, do you think they like DAOs should replace companies, or do they complement them?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just point out a few peculiar kind of differences when it comes to like Web2 corporations and how DAOs are different, and then how we can probably draw some line there, and then think about and then put it out essentially for everyone to kind of understand as to if DAOs can be, let's say, corporations can be replaced by DAOs. So I think from a from a design standpoint, DAOs start as permissionless. So I mean, everything is built in code. Whatever rules, everything set is built in code. You have incentives that are aligned within the DAO and then everything is open and transparent. The code, I mean, starting with the code to the inner functionings of the DAO, everything is like open and transparent, which also gives that inbuilt security. I mean, for like different DAOs. And at the same time, if you compare it directly with the corporations, you really don't need a lot of legal structure around like what's happening. I mean, of course, there has been talks about how DAOs can be regulated and so on. But to start a DAO, literally, it doesn't require for a person to have certain amount of skill sets or degrees or any kind of I mean, basically, we are talking about, let's say, legal expertise or like company business expertise and so on. So as long as you have connection to the internet and you know the basics of how these things work, you can start a DAO and like put it put it across the community on Twitter and multiple other platforms, and have people involved to people get involved in order to go to your whatever your mission and vision is of that DAO. So and when you look at these differences, and if you look at the Web2 corporations, it is very difficult for them to kind of emulate any of these things. You cannot literally open source and having transparency. Impossible. You talk about being permissionless. Impossible. I mean, it's contractual agreement is where it all starts in Web2 corporations, and it's. Yes, there are a few things that they can take, maybe, and then there are a few bridges that could be built. But inherently, I believe that companies can stay as companies. They can maybe take a few things from DAOs as and when. But I think, DAOs are essentially going to be distinct entities, and think of it like internet native communities, and then built in essentially code. So that's what we are looking at, and that's what I think.
Very cool. Yeah. So it's basically the main characteristic for DAOs versus companies is that DAOs are inherently global, and companies have just a headquarter in a specific location. Companies have agreements and contracts with their employees. In DAOs, it's more fluid. People can join and leave DAOs more easily. So maybe they can be more scalable. DAOs can just grow easily as people are free to join them. And just because they're blockchain based, capital is deployed more fluidly, right? You don't in the same way that DeFi makes money services, financial services easier. Well, DAOs obviously use that and don't have to depend on just this old financial structure, but they work with smart contracts to distribute funds, and it makes sense. But I wonder if there's still some connection to the real world that DAOs will have to implement at some point. Can DAOs exist like this in this just very fluid state? And for example, not how would they pay taxes, or how do they in what jurisdiction are they? What laws do they have to follow with their employees, or what? I guess not contributors is the right word, but I'm wondering what jurisdiction, what laws, if any, do they follow? If they don't follow any laws, how actually scalable is this as a movement? If it's just very a very niche kind of crypto internet thing, or if just bigger global corporations can start to adopt this structure with none of those laws in place.
And yeah, that's what I meant with kind of DAOs augment traditional companies, that a DAO will never be able to host a backend on AWS, so that there needs to be kind of this real world extension of a DAO, and this can be one person, it can be a group of person, and then there's kind of the thing that the DAO coordinates is all the on-chain assets, on-chain currencies, digital assets, on-chain smart contracts, ENS names, and all of that. But for kind of the real world assets, there's currently no good way. At least I don't know how a DAO could kind of interact with them efficiently.
While we also talk about these things, I mean, of course, there is the diversity right now is we have very few people. We are way too early in this. I mean, we have even if we just go back to just or little get the overview of what's happening in the space. If you look at crypto, there are way fewer people in crypto itself. And then to think about DAOs basically being one of the smaller subsets of crypto. So I think we are way too early in this for us to kind of like see how things can really mature in this space. But yeah, there have been things that are happening in few of the regions. I think Wyoming has come up with like different set of rules for like DAOs, and there is a fair bit of regulation there. It's up and up in the air in terms of like discussion that okay, is it even better for us to go with like a Wyoming INC kind of a structure and then have the DAO kind of dictate things. But yeah, like I said, we are way too early in this, and I mean experimentation is the key. And I mean when we see like more and more people get into this space and like understand or do things or execute things, we'll understand like as to where we should go with this. So yeah, like we are like too early is my thing on that.
So too early to know whether like DAOs can effectively replace corporations and what those laws look like and where they pay taxes. Like all those questions are still outstanding. But we what we do know now is that DAOs are working. They are they're being leveraged by different organizations, by different communities, and we can already see some of the results that they're having. So from your own individual experiences, what are some of those results that you've seen kind of firsthand from working with different DAOs? Like how have DAOs both been helpful and fallen short?
I mean,
Maybe Gajesh, you want to take this one?
Yeah, Gajesh, please. Yeah, we've been talking.
Sure. So, like something which I have seen is joining a DAO is like something you can't like. There is no age restriction. Like as there is like no like legal clarity here. Like not like anybody can't just say okay you're doing child labor. So yeah, it is kind of good to join be in a DAO.
Yeah, in general,
So,
this fluidity of kind of like joining and leaving DAOs with kind of it takes quite some effort in like joining a company. Like you need to kind of go through the application process, and then you get a contract, and then you get onboarded. And within a DAO, this is something that you can do within one day to kind of start contributing, and it's much more diverse on kind of how these contributions can look like. It isn't just like a full-time job or like a part-time job. It can be from a bounty to a grant to like a bigger involvement, a full project, running some interface, or like the range is much bigger, and kind of this being able to join and leave a DAO much more easier. It's just something that's very liberating. At least it feels to me that it feels like a new kind of way to engage in kind of like engage with my labor, like engage in work, which I haven't seen before.
Yeah, it seems like DAOs are definitely changing the nature of work. Like, so we went through many decades of just this like employer-employee relationship where that was the norm. You have a full-time job with a contract with a company, and it was very common for people to stay at one company for their whole lifetimes. Then I guess like in the 2000s with the internet and social media, we saw the rise of like the gig economy, right? Like with Uber and like delivery services. Like people could have a more flexible relationship with their employees and have many different gigs and work online and just like hold many different kind of jobs to make ends meet. I guess like the problem with that is that it started to become evident that the relationship was there was like a imbalance there, where Web2 platforms were getting kind of the better share of the pie. The relationship was very extractive, like all these companies, Uber, Airbnb, are charging huge fees for the use of their closed-end platforms, and the workers on those platforms aren't getting in what they may see like was like fairly compensated because of these like fees that the companies themselves were keeping, but they weren't sharing it with the workers of these platforms. So I think maybe that's what DAOs can disrupt. It's an open source. They're open source systems, so it's harder to just like be very extractive there. Like you can't charge like a huge fee to work in an open source company. Like there's almost open source protocol, I should say. There's just like more competition, and the benefits are just like shared more evenly with people who are contributing to the DAO. So yeah, maybe we are seeing this new kind of economy, like this new kind of way of working, which the DAO economy, I don't know, the ownership economy, others have coined. I don't know that this is like fully formed, but I think we're definitely seeing kind of the early stages of this new way of working. I don't know that this is like. Oh, please don't. Please mute your YouTube. So yeah, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I believe, this has been, let's say, like the shift is huge. I mean, it's literally the shift in our thinking. And then that's what DAOs have done. And literally, like I'm a part of a few DAOs as well, the ones that Gajesh is part of. And like essentially like getting into these DAOs is also like easy relatively, like Lukas mentioned. So when we talk about this, like again, there is like that conundrum, like you can work on your pace, on your own pace. I mean, it could be like 10 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, and then still contribute to the inner, whatever, like the main things that happen within the DAO. And still like, and then, I mean, I don't want to talk about like tokens a lot here, but tokens inherently keep that relationship between, let's say, the DAO and the DAO members as to how the value actually transfers, or the value transfer actually happens. And people are rooting for whatever the mission is, whatever the vision is for that particular DAO. And that's what is happening. I mean, you basically want more money, you can just work in like 3 more DAOs or 4 more DAOs, and that's available at this point. I mean, if you look at, and there are different tools and different like blog posts written where you can just like browse through like different things that have popped up, and you can just join a DAO and see where you can add value. So, and it just doesn't stop there. I mean, when we talk about future of work, it's not just like working your own pace or your own hours. It's also finding that like value. I mean, what can you create? What can you produce? Can you code? Can you write? Can you contribute in a meaningful way? So all those things also kind of really make it like a big difference when it comes to transferring the value to the shareholders. And I've seen like so many great examples where projects have built like amazing communities even before forming a DAO. I mean, of course, we are following the same route with Alchemist DAO, but like I've seen other projects who have built amazing communities even before they being a DAO, and then retroactively kind of airdrop tokens, and which has then led to more kind of shareholder ownership, and that being that again getting them more kind of attracted towards the vision and mission of that particular entity. So and that has been working really well, the model itself, and then yeah, I mean those are a few like things. I mean, I'm seeing data points as well from like a Covalent perspective. I mean, like around community DAOs, around protocol DAOs, specifically what's happening on the governance side, and then like what's the kind of money that's kind of like put on the governance or the grants as well. Let's say Aave or Uniswap, things that happen on the maker side and so on. And on the community side as well, there are so many data points. But yeah, like the most fascinating is what's happening on the community DAO side of things in the past 6-8 months of what we've seen, let's say the likes of Friends with Benefits or Forefront or Bankless DAO, for example. So yeah, these are a few like great examples.
And so you've talked about the token aspect. So of course, what's incentivizing these communities is the token, right? It's like a payment for contributions in the DAO's native token, and that's what binds the whole community together. So in the long term, for that to be sustainable, those tokens will need to be worth something, right? And they'll have to have some utility. So how can DAOs find value or create value or have the utility for their tokens? Like, what are some of the interesting models you've seen there?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely, like in the past couple of months, I've seen some of these DAOs actually productizing their offering. So, I mean, let's say you are just a media DAO, but now we also have a couple of products aligned to that, wherein you can maybe stake and like make more this thing like APR on the side in terms of the tokens, but that's on the liquidity provider side of things. And then, I mean, there are games being built in some of the sports guilds that are there within the DAOs. So I mean, what I'm thinking is like, yes, it all comes down to what the mission and vision is for the DAO, and if it actually aligns with that mission of what you want to build in terms of product, in terms of what service. I've seen some of the agency, like service agency DAOs as well, wherein they have this kind of model where, okay, we work like an agency, and we have like different people who work with us, and based on the projects we get, we are on board, we give those projects to the people who are wedded within the DAO, or who, I mean, and how are they wedded? I mean, there is some process that goes into it, wherein these people have to stake some tokens, which again brings the token economics, wherein, okay, let's say if I want to be a part of the DAO and I want specific services to be rendered, I need to stake 1,000 tokens. I'm just giving an example.
Right. So it's like the projects are who have DAOs as a way of organizing. Those projects are providing some sort of product or service. So the way to drive value to the token is to require users of those products and services to either pay or more likely stake tokens to receive those services. Is that kind of how you're seeing this evolving?
Yeah, that is right. And I mean, just to add to that, there's also, like, I've seen models where there's also something called as treasury diversification, where like one DAO connects with another DAO. So let's say this DAO is giving like X service, and this DAO is basically getting that service rendered from this DAO. So they can literally deal in their tokens. Like, okay, if I'm getting that service from you, then I can put 100,000 tokens in your treasury for X number of time. Or so, I mean, again, there are different models here, but I've seen these things.
That's
play
like
out
a
DAOs.
B2B, like a B2B
Yeah,
model,
D2D.
like a DAO,
exactly.
D2D, right?
Exactly.
I love it. That's so
Correct.
funny.
So, I mean, and it's fascinating. I mean, we're still in the early stages, like I said, but these models have been kind of like redefining how actually DAOs work. It's not just governance. It's not just like changing some system parameters and like redefining what you do, but it's also opening up. Since you're open source and you're transparent, you talk about things, basically going above and beyond and seeing what possibilities that you can like have within the DAO itself.
Very interesting. Lukas and Gajesh, what are your thoughts on how DAOs can bring value to their tokens?
Yeah, I agree very much with Pratik there that it depends very much on kind of the goal of the DAO. There's DAOs that really kind of are kind of just kind of investment DAOs that are just about kind of increasing the returns on some assets. There's DAOs that are more work DAOs. They're about coordinating kind of efforts and like they don't necessarily need to bring back value to the token holders, but it's more an instrument to kind of coordinate people. And there's DAOs that are really just about like achieving like a mission or like more of a non-profit kind of vision. So it's not necessarily that there needs to be always kind of a way how value is then brought back to the token. But if there is, there's also multiple ways how this can happen. One way that Pratik mentioned, that kind of a token is used in the protocol. It's used for staking, but maybe even more simpler than that. I see a lot of DAOs moving towards a system where kind of there is a protocol, there is a product that captures some fees, captures some value, and these can be captured in any kind of currency, any kind of denomination, and the DAO really then is managing a treasury, which can consist of DAI, which is used in kind of a protocol, something, a stable coin that is maybe less volatile than the native DAO token. And then the token holders can decide themselves what do they want to do with this captured value, with this treasury. They can use it to buy back tokens on the market. It's kind of similar to like a share buyback system. They can do it to reinvest it into the ecosystem. They can trade it. They can do treasury diversification. And I think that's a much more scalable method of kind of like capturing value, because it's quite difficult to kind of design the token economics that then are flexible on kind of the token price, and then not just as kind of the token price increases, all the tokenomics suddenly don't work anymore, and they create like adverse incentives inside the system. But yeah.
Really, yeah, that's a really great point. So it's like, okay, on the one hand, there's the option of using the token in exchange for goods and services by like staking the token or like using the token for payment. But then there's the option of the protocol takes fees, not necessarily on the native token. Those fees go to a treasury, and then the utility of the token is really to govern over that treasury. And so, of course, with the token holders being in control of this treasury, then that really kind of indirectly implies that the token is valuable, because you can distribute dividends. Like you said, you can buy back tokens, and you can drive value to the token that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite similar to how like traditional companies work. You're not gonna buy your Big Mac with a McDonald's share. You want to buy it with like fiat, and then the fiat, somehow there's some value capture in the share, but I don't think that kind of tokens necessarily need to be used all the time in kind of the token model or kind of the token value system. So
yeah, you're right. I think like the model where token holders control a treasury, and the treasury is tied directly to the economic activity of the protocol, that really aligns very closely to shares of a company, right? Because like you said, like you don't use McDonald's stock to buy a Big Mac, but McDonald's stock is tied to the revenue that McDonald's makes from selling Big Macs. And so even if like tokens aren't one-to-one with shares, because like shares in a company imply like a percentage, like a very clear percentage ownership of the company, and shareholders have rights over the company. With tokens, even if I don't know if it's as direct as that, but it's pretty close, right? Like you can participate in governance in the same way that shareholders can go to shareholder meetings. You can vote on how the treasury is managed and potentially earn dividends in the same way that shareholders do. You can have token buybacks. So you start to see kind of how DAOs and tokens are really kind of evolving into something that really is just like more closely tied to just company stock. Like, where do you think is there any difference in the end?
I would say it's maybe the kind of the scalability of kind of it's much like the way how tokens can be acquired, or kind of you can enter kind of this ecosystem. It's much easier than maybe participating or like accessing stocks of a company. Like in some jurisdictions, it's quite hard to kind of get access to stocks, or like there's requirements. Probably Gajesh would not be allowed to buy stocks in companies right now, but he can be kind of a token holder in a DAO. And then there's also kind of this way how tokens can capture value of like public goods, which is not possible for like traditional business models, where then kind of the token is a representation of kind of like the value of a public good, and then all kinds of contributions can be can add value to the token, which I don't think it's really possible with kind of the stock system that we have.
Can you go into the public good aspect? I'm not sure I follow you there.
Yeah, so I mean, how traditional companies kind of accrue value is by having a business model. So having a value exchange of some sorts, kind of providing a product or service and getting some money for it. But it's like in public goods, kind of the value comes of like how much is built on top of it. Like a public good becomes more valuable the bigger the ecosystem is around that. And by having kind of a token model that accrues value of like how valuable a public good is, for example, how valuable kind of Ethereum as a network is, then kind of it aligns incentives across the ecosystem participants. Not sure if that.
I get it. Yeah, no, perfect. That's so interesting. Yeah, it's okay. Like going back to like the comparison with Web 2. So it's as if Airbnb was a protocol, and instead of having this like one interface for Airbnb, anyone could build their own specific like home sharing, home whatever interface on Airbnb, and then like all of the transactions on Airbnb, like maybe people would like pay some fee whenever there's like a room that's being rented, and that would go to the Airbnb treasury, and then Airbnb token holders would benefit from the growth of that treasury. But Airbnb itself would be a platform, like an open protocol where anyone can build whatever interface and whatever application on that protocol.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and there are a couple of business models that are getting tried and tested within this space around the model that you spoke, like Camila. I mean, around Airbnb, for example. So wherein you have this platform where you can crowdfund your idea, and that idea could be, let's say, a city. And that city, essentially, I mean, it doesn't have to be like a big city, but yeah, like a small entity wherein you can have like spaces dedicated to like how much you've invested. And then that then can be kind of used as a public good for that particular ecosystem in the future. So those are the kind of models I'm seeing on that front. But yeah, it's very fascinating how things are moving faster. And then this is a point in reference, Cabin DAO. I mean, I love the kind of things that they are doing. I mean, they also do, let's say, like retreats for people to go in and live in those cabins and I think it's based in Austin, and they're also opening up. They're doing a lot of other initiatives as well within that, and then eventually they're looking at as building as a city as a DAO, or a decentralized city.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that'd be really cool. I didn't know about this. What's the name? Cabin DAO?
Yeah, Cabin DAO. That's right.
Oh, really interesting. Really cool. Okay, and one thing that I'm wondering, okay, so we've kind of established why DAOs are really helpful or interesting for people working for DAOs, right? Like you can contribute to any sort of DAO, join wherever, leave whenever. You can have multiple DAO jobs, be a DAO freelancer. So that's great. And you can earn these tokens, which we've more or less established there are different business models or like tokenomic models for them. So hopefully if the DAO does things the right way, those tokens should appreciate or at least have a potential to appreciate in the long term. So that's great for the DAO contributor. But what about for the DAO mission itself? Because okay, so like if your goal is to just like create the best X product, like I don't know, say like Tesla wanted to be a DAO. How can Elon Musk make sure that he's getting all the best engineering talent working on Tesla, and that they are completing all of their tasks at the right moment, and that everyone is on schedule and working their hours, and when they need to deliver something, they do, and that also there's a marketing aspect. I mean, like a team, and there's a legal team, and there's like all the, I don't know, dozens of teams that I imagine are required to like actually make Tesla cars. How like, so yeah, like DAOs maybe, can work for like communities, for content platforms, but for something like that's very just like complex and technically heavy, and like if you get something wrong, people die in car crash, like you need to have like just like everything working right and everyone just like firing in all cylinders. Can DAOs achieve that? Because if everyone is just like working their own hours and coming and leaving, and they don't have like fixed responsibilities, I don't know if that can work for a company like Tesla, for example. What do you guys think?
There are actually few DAOs which are.
Go ahead, Gajesh. Please. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so there are few DAOs which are doing this. So one of them is Creator DAO, which is like a content agency DAO, which like there are like people coming in the DAO, and like they just like they are people set like the founding members set the tasks, and like they just create some, like for example memes, like memes is a task. Then yeah, this is kind of possible. And yeah, continue, Pratik.
So
yeah, I mean, just
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just to iterate on the Tesla bit. I think not sure how Tesla would do it, or like a Web2 company would do it, but I'm definitely seeing the need. Again, I'm like thinking from being a DAO member in like different DAOs and running Alchemist DAO along with Jackie. So, and then again, that applies on the both sides. So I'm thinking like for everything to run, the most important thing within the DAO is documenting as much as we can. We are like A, remote, B, it's still an experimentation. But for us to function or have like a proper view of what's happening, I think documentation is like really important. Not necessarily, I would not like bind people into processes as such. But as long as you're a contributor, if you can document whatever you do for how much ever time you do, it'll be helpful for everyone in the DAO to get that kind of a visibility as to what you're doing and what everyone's doing. So if that is, and anyway, everything is open source. So why not keep everything, like all the conversations, all the meetings, notes, for example, all the calls that you go on, everything that you go on, you keep it open source and keep it in. I mean, Notion is one example, but yeah, it could be anywhere as long as people can access. So I think documentation is the key here to start with for it to function in the best way possible. I mean, there could be resistance. I'm not saying no. I mean, and there has been resistance in like people not knowing how to document or not knowing how to use some of these tools, or I mean, they just want to like not attend calls, for example, or they just want to work asynchronously, for example. So all that considered, I think documentation is the key. And if you have proper documentation and everything, I mean, like from a Web 2 perspective, like one of the examples that I can think of is GitLab. So GitLab essentially has laid out everything in the public in terms of how they work and what their processes are. So if you want to know about how they work around marketing or legal side of things or operations, all the processes are mentioned. But here in a DAO kind of a setup, you can literally have everything, like even your calls, all the notes in public. I mean, and as long as it's adding value, I mean, and people know about it, I mean, there's transparency, and then you can keep things like that. So yeah, I think it all comes down to documentation. And if you have people who are really, really passionate in getting those things set up, basically.
Maybe
What do you
to add on
think,
this,
Lukas? Yeah.
First of all, I think we're far away from Tesla becoming a DAO, if ever. But like in order to have a DAO that kind of has the scale of Tesla, there needs to be some proper structures and like components that is not just kind of every decision goes through kind of voting of every token holder and kind of everyone needs to be involved in everything. So you kind of need to split responsibilities and have maybe kind of just have some clear like also accountability of like have this is what is expected from this part of contributor or contributor group, and this also kind of helps build up reputation within the DAO. And like this kind of system can consist of like companies working for a DAO that have maybe a little bit more efficient kind of collaboration on specific tasks that are not as easy in like a completely on-chain governance way. It can also consist of like sub-DAOs that kind of you have like a main DAO that's kind of about the mission of something, and then you have kind of more specific tasks such as like marketing part or the product development or kind of infrastructure that are split into sub-DAOs, and then there's some coordination within that, and only then it can really get to a scale of Tesla when you kind of have designated responsibilities and kind of designated fields of expertise and decision making, and have the adequate like governance mechanisms for the specific tasks. Then maybe it's just one more thing to add. Like you mentioned, how can Tesla make sure that they can get the best engineers? What's really powerful on like within kind of the blockchain and DAO context is the transparency. Like for now, if I get an applicant for like an engineering role, I don't really know kind of what their expertise is. Like I have some signals from like a CV or maybe some references or so on, but on chain I can really see kind of what some contributor has done in the past, like kind of what attestations they have, what kind of contributions they made, and this transparency allows you to much better kind of see who would be like the right contributor for a specific task, who would be the best to fulfill this grant or bounty, rather than just relying on kind of the tools that we have in traditional companies.
Yeah, and it feels like when you're contributing to DAOs, it's like this constant application process, right? It's like you're contributing and you're demonstrating with your work what you're capable of. And so it's like very it's a meritocracy in that way. It's like you're contributing, and then you start kind of climbing the ranks of the DAO or getting more responsibility according to how good your contributions are. So I think that's a really good way of capturing good talent within DAOs. And maybe kind of what you're getting at, Lukas, or kind of what I'm thinking is that, I think decentralization, in my opinion, should be a goal to an end. I don't think it necessarily is the end itself. I think decentralization is the road towards an end, which is a more inclusive structure for organizations, or a better, a more fair corporate structure, or it's like a way to improve what we have right now. But if decentralization is getting in the way in some cases of just like delivering a good product, maybe there can be some hybrid model of DAO where everything is open source, and you have this open network of contributors, but there is some level of centralization in the structure where you can have maybe full-time teams, just like making sure this network is organized and that resources are deployed in an efficient way, and maybe that kind of more centralized structure can have like the checks and balances of like decentralized token voting. So like maybe those roles can be voted in by decentralized token holders, but maybe there can be just like a combination there of like some level of centralization to make sure that like shit gets done, but then like you still have like all the benefits of like a decentralized organization. I don't know if like you're seeing examples of that.
Yeah, like I've seen examples, if I can chime in. Basically, in terms of DAOs being like progressively decentralizing themselves, and then not 100% decent. I mean, I think none of the DAOs, even the protocol DAOs that like started back in 2018 or 19, are not 100% decentralized. The Moloch DAOs or the metacartel DAOs of the world are still not 100% decentralized. So what? And you rightly pointed out, there are a few things that, I mean, again, from a contributor standpoint and the people who actually run the DAOs, they also need to understand that not everyone is essentially going to be a core contributor. Like it's not always that, okay, like if you're looking to hire or onboard someone into a DAO, they're not going to like fully, work for you. So I think it's important for this, to like think from a progressive standpoint and get into that mode wherein you have a few things. Let's say governance. You can start with off-chain governance to start with. On-chain can come later, and then because literally when we are talking about DAOs here and onboarding, there are like a lot of people who still do not understand how do I, and then again, this is coming from most of the DAOs who have token gated communities, for example. So they don't know how to actually get into a token gated community. So I mean, the struggle is basically starting there. So for us to kind of educate and then think about how we can progressively decentralize some of the things that we do in terms of DAOs, and then of course get things done. So yeah, I think the priority should be to make it really, really inclusive as much as you can. You cannot all the time, and then think of decentralizing as people understand and know what's happening within the DAO. So that's what I think is the way.
Cool. Okay, and then to wrap up, if you had like a magic wand, and you could just like create one tool that right now is missing for DAOs to work better, what would that tool be?
Lucas, you want to go first?
Yeah, I would like to see better tooling around kind of rewarding contributors. I think there's still a lot of
That's
missing.
key.
There's like a lot of like tooling around kind of governance, on-chain governance, but kind of the like having proper rewarding tools from like smaller bounties to bigger grants to like big size projects, and kind of the tooling around that's needed to kind of guarantee like accountability and kind of the kind of payout structure and all of that's in my opinion still missing.
Yeah, agree, 100%. I'd like to see that too.
Yeah, just from like coordination perspective, and like there are a few tools like people are using, like a discourse forum, for example, or a Discord channel, for example, to kind of like interact, or basically Discord being their office, like DAO's office, and then a discourse forum being like where they communicate. So I think, I mean, if there can be a better tool for people who are in multiple DAOs to just like collaborate easily, because like right now what we have to do is like as a DAO member, I have to go in like different Discord servers and those channels and then see what's actually happening for me to kind of get into some of the core things that are happening within the DAO. So I don't get notified. I don't get like unless I actually go in, let's say the discourse or their snapshot page or their wherever the on-chain thing is happening, or go into the Discord. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is very difficult to kind of navigate for a DAO member. So yeah, I mean, some like one tool which basically solves all these problems and basically becomes like a communication tool for DAOs.
Yeah, right now everything is so fragmented. Like there's so many platforms and like apps you need to use. Yeah, that would be good. How about for you, Gajesh?
Okay. I think Pratik and Lucas have discussed like most of the things. I think what I can add here is,
or like maybe not a tool, but like a DAO you would like to see and join.
To see and join. Okay. Like a DAO which I can join. Wow. What was the question again?
No, just like something that you're looking forward to in the DAO space.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to like a kids capital DAO, which I am actually building. So a kids capital DAO where like all the kids can just like all the teenagers can join in, and like they can be like they can invest in projects directly.
Oh, nice. A DAO for teenagers. Teen DAO.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. You should do it. That would for sure take off. All the Zoomers out there, Gen Z kids. Oh, I'm sounding like such an old person. I hate myself. Old millennial here. Okay.
Exactly.
This is awesome. Yeah, like let me know when that's out. We'll cover it in the Defiant. That sounds great. There's like tons of teenagers in DeFi, so you shouldn't have problems finding a good squad there.
Yeah. Yes.
So okay, so that's a good place to wrap up, because it's kind of takes us back a full circle to the beginning, where we were talking about why DAOs are so interesting and different from Web 2, and it's because of this aspect of like openness and permissionlessness, inclusivity, where teenagers can band together and coordinate and organize their resources efficiently in a way that would never be possible in the old world. So this was an amazing discussion. We covered so much, from token values to Web 2 versus DAOs and business models. Really, really thank you guys. I really enjoyed this. And thanks for joining the jam session, and have a great rest of your days.
Thank you, Camila.
Bye.